So the last time we had you on, we talked about your book, Willful Blindness, and all about the really shady connections between the Chinese Communist Party, triads, and the Canadian government. But now you have made a 17,000-word update to Willful Blindness. Why did you make that decision?
Well, there was some important information to update. One was the BC anti-money laundering trial that really stemmed from a lot of my reporting has concluded, and they came back with some of their findings. I had some more documentation from those hearings to add to my narrative. And there was an important update about foreign interference in Canada, which really connected to what I was told was interference against myself and the book. In brief, I was warned after the book came out that it was having impact in Canada, and Beijing was worried about its impact. I was told that Chinese intelligence in Canada was seeking to gather information on myself, on the impact of the book. They wanted to know whether I had any connections or sponsorship from what China calls the five poisons. Those would be democracy activists within China, groups like Falun Gong, which the Chinese Communist Party really fears, activists in Tibet, Uyghurs, etc. They of course also fear what democracy in Taiwan. So in a nutshell, I felt it important to update Canadian citizens that these efforts by the Chinese Communist Party against a journalist and author were occurring. And I found that I could say that the same people involved had also really done a very sophisticated attack on Canada's last federal election. I know your American listeners and viewers are very familiar with the reports of Russia's efforts to infiltrate the United States elections, but China has deeply infiltrated Canada's elections in at least, if not more, a worrying way. So those are some of the things I had to update readers on.
So the trial you're talking about is the Cullen Commission, right?
That's right, the Cullen Commission into money laundering. And in brief, they came back with findings that vast, what's called Vancouver model money laundering is using BC's economy as a clearinghouse, as the judge involved said, for global money laundering activities that destabilize the west coast of Canada's economy. They didn't come back with some findings on some of the very important things that my book uncovered, and I know they're of interest to experts in Washington, including people involved in military, law enforcement, and intelligence. But they did come back and say, we've got a big problem, Canada. We need to do something. We're not exactly sure what we can do about it in a way.
And so then Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, came in and said, I'm going to take care of this problem, right?
In an ideal world for a statesman or a stateswoman, you would think that we would have heard from the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying that this is a tremendous finding and we need to get the national federal force and the intelligence agencies all over it. And as your tone indicates, unfortunately, we haven't heard anything from Ottawa or the Prime Minister. We have heard from some opposition MPs that both were concerned with the Cullen Commission and I guess you could say are fans of willful blindness. And they are now, at least one is now calling for a national anti-money laundering inquiry.
Now, this is what I find fascinating. Like, this is getting a lot of exposure. There are some very serious risks to Canada going on because of the Chinese Communist Party. And yet it seems at a higher level, there's very little movement from the Canadian government to deal with this. For example, in January 2020, British MI5 issued a warning that an alleged Chinese agent infiltrated the UK Parliament. But Canada's CSIS, that's the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, doesn't issue warnings about similar things in Canada. Why not?
That's right. It's a complicated situation. This is a theme in my updated chapter. I was told by sources, both political and in Canadian intelligence, that what occurred with Christine Lee in Britain, that is a high-level infiltration of Britain's parliament, the leading Conservative Party, a real focus there, using what they say and what I wrote about is the United Front Work Department and very big fundraisers, including Ms. Lee, approaching politicians and finding that soft spot, that is that the need to fund election campaigns. Canada knows that our prime minister was deeply targeted, his party targeted in the very same way, with these very, very insidious political donors that get beside the prime minister, lobby for a policy that will be beneficial to Beijing, and they are able to, it's feared, compromise our leaders in that way. But you're right, CSIS knows about it, but cannot make an alert because of Canada's stringent privacy laws. And I'm told more deep and nefarious factors, and that is, could the ruling Liberal government be benefiting from Chinese interference? There's a case there if you consider that in the last federal election, as I've indicated, there was a very sophisticated WeChat facilitated attack on conservative members of parliament, including one that was calling for a foreign agent registry in Canada. This MP was smeared as anti-Chinese and racist against China. He's a Chinese Canadian. So the question here is, if you're the Liberal government and the other party, your political enemy, is being attacked by Beijing, you are not, are you benefiting? Could this be another case of willful blindness? People that I talk to in intelligence who are very frustrated with Canada's lack of efforts against China, unfortunately, they believe that that kind of corruption could be occurring.
Is that the type of election interference you were indicating earlier?
Yes, in a nutshell, the WeChat campaigns were rolled out across Canada, focusing, on Chinese Canadians that often get most of their news from Mandarin sources, and these networks distorted and smeared the efforts of a Chinese Canadian MP to get a Foreign Agent Registry Act, which Canada lacks. They said this was racist. They also attacked other, ridings in Vancouver on the West Coast, Toronto on the East, that have a high Chinese Canadian or Asian population. And a number of independent reports said China was successful in influencing these ridings.